What's up guys, Brian here with BPS Customs, and today we're going to assemble April's system for our monthly build series. This is going to be a pure powerhouse of a build as we're using all kinds of high-end goodies here. But there's a small twist in that this system has a particular function to fulfill once it's all buttoned up. Let's get into it. So in my 1080 Ti video, which you can find up here, I gave you a sneak preview of this month's build by letting you guys know it will contain a 1080 Ti. So is that something that's already public knowledge? Let's start there. This is the Asus Strix GTX 1080 Ti OC. Now I haven't worked up a full review of this card yet, although one is in the works. But I have it on loan right now, and in the past few days I've been able to run some benchmarks and compare it to my Founders Edition cards. Overall, it runs much faster at stock clock speeds without generating nearly as much heat. And the silent fan mode and independent fan operation makes for a way quieter experience. It is, however, enormous. So what's going to be in charge of feeding frames to this GPU? The Ryzen 7 1800X. Although it's certainly true that the 1700 can come close to this chip if you're willing to push an overclock, the bottom line is that nothing else from AMD provides the raw horsepower that the 1800X does. If you want the best, this is it right here. We're going to be taking full advantage of the 8-core 16-thread configuration once this is all put together. Cooling our 1800X is the Master Liquid Pro 140. This unit, as well as several other parts of our build today, was provided by Cooler Master. According to the team over there, this should be more than sufficient to cool the 1800X, as it's only a 95-watt part. I'm a little wary of using a single 140mm radiator to cool such a high-end processor, but I trust that their engineers know what they're doing, and we'll find out soon enough. The Ryzen CPU will be right at home in the Asus Crosshair 6 Hero motherboard, the best and most fully featured of the X370 boards I took a look at in this video up here. Consequently, it's also the most expensive, but I'm hoping to achieve some really nice overclocks and memory speeds once we update the BIOS. It's going to provide a perfect complement to the Strix 1080 Ti, as well as these Cooler Master Masterfan Pro 120s, which will both be able to sync up in the Asus Aura Sync software. For memory, we're going with a 16GB kit of Corsair Dominator Platinum 3000. There's no blingy RGB LEDs here, just pure performance to go along with what I think is the classiest looking DIMM on the market. I kind of wish I had a kit of 3200 MHz or faster Dominator Platinum on hand to take advantage of Ryzen's performance boost with high-speed RAM, but alas, I do not. Powering our system and also provided by Cooler Master is the V850, a fully modular 850 watt, 80 plus gold rated power supply that is probably overkill for this build, but given that this is a high-end system with a power-hungry GPU and the potential for add-ons in the future, it's not an unreasonable choice. We're going to be building in the recently released Mastercase Pro 6. I did a full review on this case in this video and came away very impressed with the myriad number of build options it presents while still being packaged in a polished exterior. I'm looking forward to putting a whole system in this case for the first time. The system is going to be accented purple and complemented by these awesome looking cables provided by Joey at Ensource Customs. There are lots of shops out there right now doing custom sleeving, and for the most part they all do a pretty good job. But Ensource has a huge variety of crazy colors and styles to choose from, and the cables feel absolutely premium. Big shout out to Ensource for hooking me up for this build. So if you noticed, I haven't yet talked storage, and that's because I'm going to be reusing the storage configuration from my main editing rig, the system formerly known as Deep Red. Why? Well, the actual answer directly ties into the ultimate purpose for this build that I alluded to earlier: to provide me with an 8-core workstation to edit 4K footage while my main system is out of commission. I'll be taking it apart in preparation for a full water-cooled rebuild, and I need a system to work on in the interim. I'll be able to transfer over all of my archived footage stored on this Western Digital 4TB black drive, as well as hopefully my operating system, Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, and all the other programs I use on a regular basis on this Samsung 850 EVO. If all goes well, I should have a fully functional system without having to reinstall the OS. It will be good to get some long-term use from a Ryzen system to see how it holds up to the tasks I do every day as opposed to just canned benchmarks. Speaking of benchmarks, as I talked about in my last monthly build, I'm going to be eliminating the PC Mark test. In its place, I'm going to be adding in a 4K render test and Unigen's new superposition benchmark. But before we do that, we got to slap it all together. So let's get slapping. Alright guys, so it's now 2 days later, and we're finally finished up with this build. Now, everything didn't go quite as smoothly as I would have liked, and as a result, the build process took a little bit longer and kind of filled up the better portion of the day that I was trying to film this whole thing. And then the following day, which was yesterday, I actually had the first outdoor volleyball tournament of the season, so hence why I'm all red, because I did forget to put on sunscreen, and my wife certainly did remind me of that. But today, we're finishing up everything, and what I wanted to do is just kind of take the camera off here and show you a couple of things that I ended up doing with this build that were a little bit different than I had originally planned, and also what exactly happened to make this process a little more rocky than I would have liked. So let's do that right now. Alright guys, we're going to take a look inside the guts of this machine, and I want to just point a few things out to you. The first thing that you'll notice is that the purple cables look awesome. And what is going on here? Let me just tell you that this is not the fault of NSource Customs. When I talked to them about this project, I told them I was going to be putting a Founders Edition card in here. I did not say anything about a Strix card or any kind of aftermarket PCB that's going to need additional power. So what they sent me was an 8-pin and a 6-pin, and unfortunately now I have an 8-pin and an 8-pin, so what I had to do was use some black extensions and kind of just improvise here. So we have the black and a purple. I think it actually looks okay, but clearly 2 purples would have been better. Also, you guys will notice that the 24-pin cable is actually swept all the way over to the right, and it goes behind this bar as opposed to running through the grommeted openings that are right here. And that's because of the position of the 24-pin header on this motherboard. It actually falls right in the middle of 2 grommeted openings. So there's one here and there's one here. In the middle, there's actually a bar. There's no way to put this through right there. So if I wanted to put this through one of the grommeted openings, I'd have to either go up with it or down with it, which means it would curve. And I wanted to keep it straight, so what I did was I swept it all the way to the right, and I put it behind this this mounting bar that's over there. I actually think it looks really good because you get to see more of the cable this way, and all the cables are in line and look really neat and clean. And as you guys know, that's the way I like to do my systems. But if we back out here, you'll see that this build didn't end up being all purple. That was a dilemma that I was facing basically all day while I was building this. So originally what I had was I had the 3 purple fans, 1, 2, and 3. I had the purple cables, and then there are down here underneath on the chipset, there's actually purple accents on the motherboard as well. And then there's also one on the I/O cover that you can't see because it's covered by these fans. So everything was purple in here except for the LED on the cooler. And that is blue, and you can't change it. And that's not something that I had thought about initially, which I guess is my fault. But so we had everything that was purple and this one highlight of blue, and it looked weird. I couldn't shake it. Like I was potentially thinking about maybe covering it with a piece of vinyl or something like that, but I was like, maybe I could do something with this. And then I was talking with Steve OMG on Twitter, and he suggested adding more blue to the case to do kind of an offset, so you have a blue section and a purple section. So what I ended up doing was changing the LEDs on the video card to blue, and then mounting this blue LED fan. So right now we actually have a diagonal from one corner to the bottom corner, top corner to the bottom corner. Here's purple, here's blue. If you actually draw a line down the middle, it's a really clean break, really clean division between purple and blue, and I think it actually looks really cool. But one of the other reasons that I was dealing with changing this fan back here actually is because I was getting a lot of fan blade contact with the fan frame when under load, and the fans would spin up. So when it was necessary to provide extra cooling capacity to the chip, the fans would spin faster as they're supposed to, but then I guess they would move on their axis and contact the frame, and it sounded like this. So what I did was I actually removed one of the fans that was the more egregious offender, and I replaced it with this, which was kind of at the same time that I was trying to figure out the color scheme, so this kind of worked out. But I still get the same issue with this black back fan. So I'm gonna have to do something with it. These are the fans that came with this cooler. I'm a little disappointed that there was that that noise that's coming from an underload. I'm thinking about replacing this with like a Be Quiet Silent Wings 3 or something along those lines, just so that I don't have to face that problem. This fan, this blue one, doesn't have that issue. But the ones, and this is a Cooler Master fan as well, but the ones that came with this cooler, unfortunately, I have to take out of there because it's just too much. I can't deal with every time I render a video, I can't deal with the kind of clicking or whatever you want to call it that's going on back there. But other than that, things went okay. I actually really liked building in this case. It's very spacious. There are not really a whole lot of challenges that you face. Everything is modular, so you see this whole side here is empty. I was able to take everything out and create a nice, even appearance, nice, clean space. The cable routing down below could have been a little cleaner. I mean, that's just kind of the way things are situated from this motherboard. Hold on, let me focus. So yeah, it could have been a little cleaner down there, just based on where everything is situated on the motherboard and how you have to run the cables. But that's really not very much you could change. And they're still run through all the grommeted openings. It's not like they have to run anywhere across like an open space or something. That would be terrible. But I think this came out looking really good. So I'm happy with it overall, and I'm happy to have it sitting on my desk. All right, so now that you guys have a little bit of a behind the scenes about what goes on as I'm building these systems and kind of what I'm thinking about and how I want to present them to you, let's just talk about how this system performs. I've been extremely happy with the way that I've been able to edit videos, because what I did was, after I got everything set up, I did run through some of my previous projects, scrub through some of the timelines, re-rendered them, checked the render settings and the export time. Everything seems to be running exactly the way I wanted it to run. I'm really happy with the way Ryzen handles tasks like video editing, which is the main thing that I use this system for. So in the interim, while I have the system set up and I'm waiting to get all the parts to put my 6900K water-cooled system back together again, I think this is going to serve me really, really well. So let's just talk really quickly about the overclocks I was able to achieve here. The memory is running stable at 2933. I had absolutely no problem achieving this speed after updating the BIOS on the Crosshair 6. So thank you AMD, and thank you Asus and all the other motherboard vendors who are out there working hard to make sure that your BIOS is updated to the point where now higher speed memory runs at the rated speed, giving us a performance boost on the Ryzen platform. As far as the chip itself, it's running at 3975 megahertz. Now that may seem like a kind of a strange number, but the way the overclocking works on the Ryzen platform, you have a multiplier and then a divider, and then you could achieve all kinds of weird numbers by increasing or decreasing either of those numbers. And sitting at 4 gigahertz, running an IDA64 stress test, this system actually crashed on me. And because I'm going to be using it daily for video editing, it's really important that it is super stable. So even though I was able to achieve 4 gigahertz and complete benchmarks at 4 gigahertz, it was really important that I scaled it back just a hair to make sure that it was something that wasn't going to give me any problems. So I just took it back down a very little bit, 25 megahertz, that's all. It's running at 1.4 volts to achieve that speed, and everything seems to be perfectly stable at this time, although the temperatures are a little higher than I would want. Under 100% load, when running for maybe 10 minutes or so in IDA64, it was sitting at about 82 degrees. Normally Ryzen chips are happy in like the mid 70s, so perhaps the cooler should be upgraded to a 240 AIO or maybe a 280 AIO, which is a little bit strange considering that this is a 95 watt part. It shouldn't be generating that much heat, but the overvolting clearly doesn't help the situation. And I want to have it overclocked to give me the boost in performance that I'm going to need to do the kinds of stuff that I want to do with the system. So we're going to leave it for now. I'm going to leave the cooler for now, and we're going to see what happens. If it starts giving me some problems, or if we get like random shutdowns, or the system throwing errors or something like that, I'll certainly switch it up and put in a different cooler. The GPU is actually overclocked plus 60 on the core and plus 200 on the memory. Granted, not the highest or best overclocking card that I've ever worked with, but just remember this is already coming from the factory overclocked. So whatever I'm doing now is just kind of a bonus on top of that. And you can't really expect to achieve the same kind of results as far as an offset that you would with a Founders Edition card, which is just completely stock speeds. With that being said though, the gaming performance of the system is outrageously good, and I wouldn't really need anything more than that anyway. That's it, guys. This system is all done. This is going to be my daily driver for the next month or so until I get my other system back up and running. And I really hope to get some good hands-on experience and be able to maybe at the end of a month do a follow-up video on the system, tell you what I think, how it was to work with an 1800X for a significant period of time in daily tasks. That's going to be some good information for me to have and to communicate with you guys, so I look forward to being able to do that. So hit that little like button down in the corner if this video was cool. Also, get subscribed to the channel if you are not already, because there are plenty more videos coming that are just like this one. We're going to do our monthly builds and also other water cooling projects and things of that nature that you guys might find interesting. As always, guys, I really appreciate you sticking around. Thank you so much to the sponsors for this video, which is Cooler Master for the case, power supply, and cooler, and Source Customs for the awesome cables. And thank you very much to my buddy Neil for allowing me to borrow his Strix 1080 Ti. I did trade him a Founders Edition, so it's not like he's without one right now, but I know he probably wants to get this thing back in his system as soon as possible, so I'll definitely have it back in your hands pretty soon. Thanks guys for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.